every image recognition system, every language model, every self-driving perception engine, every AI product that has shocked the world in the last decade, all of them share a common ancestor. And that ancestor was considered a dead end for over 20 years. In 1969, two of the most respected scientists at MIT published a book that nearly ended neural network research entirely. They proved, mathematically, that the artificial neurons being built at the time were fundamentally limited. Funding dried up, labs closed, the field went quiet, but the idea did not die. Researchers kept one crucial insight alive. What if you stacked the neurons? What if instead of one layer, you used many? That question, quietly incubated over 2 decades, eventually produced the architecture you are about to learn. It is called the multilayer perceptron, and once you understand it, you will understand the DNA of every modern AI system that exists. This video is about the multilayer perceptron, the MLP for short. It is the foundational architecture of deep learning. Before convolutional neural networks, before recurrent networks, before transformers, there was the MLP. It is the simplest version of what we now call a deep neural network, and it contains every key idea those more complex architectures are built on. You will also see how the MLP did not get replaced by modern AI. It got embedded inside it. Let us start at the very beginning. An MLP is a chain of connected layers, and each layer is a collection of simple computing units called neurons. The idea is far simpler than the name suggests. Think of the MLP as a pipeline with 3 stages. You pour raw data in at one end, some processing happens in the middle, and a prediction comes out the other end. Those 3 stages map directly to the 3 types of layers every MLP has: the input layer, the hidden layers, and the output layer. The input layer is passive. It does no computation. It simply holds the numbers that represent your data. If you are classifying images that are 28 by 28 pixels, the input layer has 784 neurons, one for each pixel value. Each neuron holds a single number. The output layer is the final answer. If you are classifying handwritten digits, the output layer might have 10 neurons, one for each digit 0 through 9. The neuron with the highest value wins, and that is the network's prediction. Everything interesting happens in between, in the hidden layers. These are called hidden not because they are secret, but because you never directly specify what they should contain. The network figures that out on its own through training. These intermediate layers are where the MLP does all of its real work. Now let us look at what a single neuron actually does. Every neuron in a hidden layer takes in some numbers from the previous layer, multiplies each one by a weight, adds them all together, and then adds a bias term. Here is that computation in equation form. Z equals W transpose times X plus B. Here, X is the vector of inputs coming from the previous layer, W is the vector of weights, one per input. The notation W transpose times X is a dot product that multiplies each input by its corresponding weight and sums them all together. And B is the bias, a single extra number that lets the neuron shift its response independently of the inputs. The result Z is called the pre-activation value. Now extend this to a whole layer. Every neuron in the layer does this same operation simultaneously. Because we can process every neuron at once using matrix multiplication, the full layer computation compresses into a single elegant formula. H superscript L equals sigma of H superscript L minus 1 times W superscript L plus B superscript L. Here, H superscript L is the matrix of activations, or outputs, at layer L. H superscript L minus 1 is the output of the previous layer, or the raw input data for the first layer. W superscript L is the weight matrix connecting layer L minus 1 to layer L. B superscript L is the bias vector, and sigma is a nonlinear activation function applied element-wise to every value. This formula executes once per layer. Stacking multiple layers means applying this formula repeatedly, each layer's output feeding as the next layer's input. Think of the MLP as a factory assembly line. Each workstation or layer receives a partially assembled product, a data representation, performs its specific operation, weighted sum plus nonlinearity, and passes the result to the next station. By the time the product reaches the end of the line, it has been transformed from raw material into a finished product, a prediction. No single workstation knows the full picture, but together they build it. Without activation functions, the MLP would be completely useless, no matter how many layers you added. Here is why. The operation inside each layer is a linear transformation. Multiply inputs by weights, add biases. If you stack several linear transformations one after another, the result is still just one linear transformation. You could collapse a 100-layer network with no activation functions into a single-layer network that computes the exact same thing. All that depth would be meaningless. An activation function breaks this collapse. It introduces nonlinearity, meaning the network can now produce curved, complex, twisting decision boundaries rather than just flat lines. And that means it can learn to distinguish things that are not linearly separable, which is almost everything in the real world. There are 3 activation functions you absolutely need to know. F of z equals the maximum of 0 and z. ReLU is beautifully simple. If the input z is positive, pass it through unchanged. If it is 0 or negative, output 0. For z greater than 0, the derivative is exactly 1. This is crucial because during training, gradients flow through ReLU neurons without being suppressed, avoiding the vanishing gradient problem that plagued earlier networks using Sigmoid everywhere. ReLU is also extremely fast to compute, no exponentials, just a simple comparison. Known limitation is dying ReLU. If a neuron's input is consistently negative, it always outputs 0, and its gradient becomes permanently 0 as well. The neuron is said to die. It stops contributing and stops learning. Variants like leaky ReLU address this by allowing a small, non-zero slope for negative inputs, for example 0, 0, 1 z. Sigma of z equals 1 over 1 plus e to the power of negative z. Sigmoid squashes any input, no matter how large or small, into the range 0 to 1. This makes it naturally interpretable as a probability, which is why it is still widely used in the output layer for binary classification. However, at very high or very low values of z, the function flattens out. Its derivative approaches 0 in these saturated regions, meaning gradients almost stop flowing during backpropagation. In deep networks with many layers, this causes the layers closest to the input to learn extremely slowly, the vanishing gradient problem. For this reason, Sigmoid is rarely used in hidden layers of modern deep networks. Tan of z equals e to the z minus e to the negative z, divided by e to the z plus e to the negative z. Tan is Sigmoid's better-behaved sibling. It squashes inputs into the range negative 1 to 1, which means its outputs are zero-centered. Zero-centered outputs reduce a subtle training problem. When activations are always positive, as with Sigmoid, all gradient updates tend to push weights in the same direction, creating a zigzag inefficiency. Tanh eliminates this. It still saturates at its extremes and still suffers from vanishing gradients in very deep networks, but its zero-centering makes it preferable to Sigmoid for hidden layers in many contexts. According to sources, ReLU has a range from 0 to infinity, is not zero-centered, does not suffer from vanishing gradient for positive inputs, and is best used for hidden layers as the default choice. Sigmoid has a range from 0 to 1, is not zero-centered, does suffer from vanishing gradient at extremes, and is best used for the output layer in binary classification. Tanh has a range from negative 1 to 1, is zero-centered, does suffer from vanishing gradient at extremes, and is best used for hidden layers when centering matters. Think of an activation function as a volume knob on a mixing board. Purely linear neuron has no volume knob at all. Every signal passes through exactly as is. The activation function adds a knob that can shape the signal. ReLU cuts out everything below 0 like a noise gate. Sigmoid smoothly compresses everything into a narrow band of volume. Tanh does the same but centered around silence. Without any knob, every channel would simply add up into a flat, undifferentiated wash of noise. The knob is what gives each channel its character and the network its power. An MLP is not programmed with rules. It learns by making mistakes and adjusting millions of times over. At the start of training, the weights in the network are set to small random numbers. The network knows nothing. Then show it a training example, say, an image of a handwritten 3, and ask it to make a prediction. It will almost certainly get it wrong. That wrongness is measured by a loss function, which compares the network's output to the correct answer and produces a single number called the loss. High loss means the prediction was terrible. Low loss means the network is doing well. The goal of the entire training process is to drive this number as low as possible. Here is the hard problem. A network might have millions of individual weights. How do you know which ones to change and by how much? That is exactly what backpropagation solves. Backpropagation starts at the output layer, where the loss is known, and moves backward through the network one layer at a time. Using a calculus technique called the chain rule, it computes how much each individual weight contributed to the total loss. This gives you the gradient for every weight, the direction and magnitude of change that would increase the loss. You then step in the opposite direction to decrease it. W gets updated to W minus eta times the gradient of the loss with respect to W. Here, W is any weight in the network. Eta, the learning rate, is a small positive number, commonly in the range 0, 0, 0, 1 to 0, 0, 1, that controls how large each step is. The gradient of the loss with respect to W is computed by backpropagation, and the arrow means replace the old value with this new value. Example, a weight is currently W equals 0, 50. Backpropagation finds that the gradient of the loss with respect to W equals 2, 0, meaning increasing this weight would increase the loss. The weight took a small step in the direction that reduces loss. This update happens for every single weight in the network, repeatedly. The cycle is forward pass to generate a prediction, compute the loss, run backpropagation to get gradients, update every weight. Repeat this tens of thousands of times across the training data, and the weights gradually shift into configurations that produce accurate predictions. The MLP has learned. Imagine you are standing on a mountain in thick fog trying to reach the valley at the bottom. You cannot see the valley, but you can feel the slope of the ground under your feet. Gradient descent says, take a small step in whichever direction feels most downhill. Backpropagation is the mechanism that figures out which direction is most downhill for every single weight simultaneously. The learning rate is how large a step you take with each iteration. Set it too large, and you overshoot the valley and climb the other side. Set it too small, and you take forever to arrive. Good training finds the step size that gets you to the bottom reliably. Adding more hidden layers does not just make the network bigger, it fundamentally changes what the network is capable of learning. Each layer of an MLP builds on the layer before it. The first hidden layer might detect simple, low-level patterns in the data. The second hidden layer combines those patterns into something slightly more abstract. The third layer combines those abstractions into higher-level concepts. By the time information reaches the output layer, the network has constructed a hierarchy of representations, each level more sophisticated than the last. This is the power of depth, and it is backed by rigorous mathematics. In 1989, a mathematician named George Cybenko published a proof of what became known as the universal approximation theorem. The theorem states, a feed-forward neural network with even just one hidden layer containing a finite number of neurons and using a continuous nonlinear activation function can approximate any continuous function on a bounded domain to any degree of accuracy you specify. Any function, given enough neurons. That is a remarkable guarantee. It tells us that, in principle, an MLP is capable of modeling any relationship in data, no matter how complex. Here is the practical nuance the theorem does not address. While one wide hidden layer can theoretically approximate anything, it may require an astronomically large number of neurons to do so efficiently. A deeper network with more layers, each of moderate width, can often represent the same complex function far more compactly. Depth is not a theoretical luxury. It is a practical necessity for learning complex real-world patterns with a manageable number of parameters. Here is the part that surprises most people. The MLP was not replaced by modern deep learning. It was absorbed into it. Convolutional neural networks, or CNN, use the same weights bias activation structure as the MLP for every neuron. The only innovation is that connections are restricted to local patches of the image rather than every single pixel, making image processing vastly more efficient. But the underlying neuron computation is pure MLP. Recurrent neural networks, or RNN, add a feedback loop so information can persist across time steps, making them suitable for sequential data like language or audio. But each time steps update uses MLP-style computation at its core. Transformers, the architecture powering large language models, image generators, and protein folding systems, have each of their blocks built from two main components. The first is a self-attention mechanism that identifies relationships between parts of the input. The second is a feed-forward sublayer. A feed-forward sublayer is an MLP, hidden inside every token generation by a large language model, every image produced by a generative model, every scientific prediction made by a biological AI system. There is the same core idea Frank Rosenblatt sketched in 1958. Research into transformer internals has revealed something remarkable. The MLP feed-forward layers are not just passive processing circuits. Studies suggest they function more like associative memories, storing factual associations that the attention mechanism can query. When a language model retrieves that the capital of France is Paris, that knowledge appears to be encoded primarily in the MLP layers, not the attention heads. The MLP, buried inside the most powerful AI systems ever built, is not just structural scaffolding. It is doing cognitive heavy lifting. Let us bring everything together. An MLP is a feed-forward neural network with an input layer, one or more hidden layers, and an output layer. Each neuron performs a weighted sum of its inputs plus a bias. A nonlinear activation function, ReLU, Sigmoid, Tanh, or one of many others, then transforms that value into the neuron's output. The network learns by measuring its mistakes with a loss function, running backpropagation to calculate each weight's contribution to those mistakes, and using gradient descent to nudge every weight slightly in the direction that reduces loss. Repeat this cycle millions of times, and the network learns. Depth makes this powerful. More hidden layers allow the network to build hierarchical representations, capturing increasingly abstract patterns layer by layer. George Cybenko proved in 1989 that even a single hidden layer can theoretically approximate any function. But in practice, depth is what makes that approximation tractable on real-world data. And most importantly, every modern architecture you encounter, convolutional networks, recurrent networks, transformers, the systems generating text and images and scientific breakthroughs today, all of them carry the MLP's DNA. Understanding the MLP is not just a lesson in history, it is the foundation of everything. If you want to go deeper from here, the natural next steps are understanding how convolutional layers specialize the MLP for image data, how attention mechanisms extend it for sequences, and how regularization techniques like dropout prevent overfitting. Each of those topics builds directly on what you now understand about the MLP.